Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are looking at exterior building decorations and taking our flat and boring buildings to the next level with some of my favorite Dead Space killers for walls and roofs. So if you're tired of having your buildings looking like this, and you'd rather want them looking like this, then stick around because I got lots to show you. So first up today we are talking windows, and yes, I know it's an obvious one. We all put windows in our buildings, but sometimes they can look a little bit flat and boring. So one of the ways that you can spruce them up is by adding some bars and boards to them. You know, Cyberpunk cities being very run down, this is a good way of actually portraying that. Also having concrete behind your windows to give it either a magenta glow or a cyan glow, or maybe just blacking it out completely can really help. Then there are all the awning decorations. Obviously you would just use one of these two, but these are just two good examples of how you can make something look a little bit more industrial. But one of my favorite ways of sprucing up your windows is by using carpets. Carpets can add a pop of color to the whole building, but also look very cool as blinds. And yes, there's an interior in there, and I will be making an interior decoration video at some point and linking to it right here when it's ready. But windows aren't just for decorating walls. You can also use them to decorate your roofs by adding some skylights. Here I've just used some concrete, some carpet with light sources underneath them, and then some panes, and it gives a really cool effect, which looks even better with shaders. Everything looks better with shaders, but I'll show you guys that at the end. Next, we're moving on to one of my favorites, which is doors, but not your average doors. No, we're using rolly doors. Now, this can add quite a lot of industrial feel to your buildings. So I got a couple of rolly doors here. Those of you who have been watching some of my videos for a while would know that I absolutely love rolly doors. And here are two designs that I like to use. And then you can also use it for roof decoration. So if you have an elevator or cargo shaft coming up to your roof, then you could also make a horizontal opening one on top of your buildings. And then right at the top here, I've also added one of these, and I'm not quite sure how you would call them, but yeah, essentially, you know, bars come down from the holes or come up from the holes or whatever. And just to show you guys, walls don't attach to fences, fences don't attach to panes, and obviously end rods and chains don't attach either. So these are some good options. You wouldn't use all of them at once, but maybe pick one or two and mix and match and see what works for you. Next up is piping and machinery. Now, you guys have seen a lot of pipes and things like that. You know, that's kind of something you could use. But just as an example, there's some really big pipes and machinery going on here with some extra pipes coming out of that. I've even used some custom heads and armor stands. If you have access to that, you can add some valves and things like that. Really useful. I tend to use blast furnaces for things like air conditioning units and HVAC units. Or I use observers for like mechanical parts, machinery sticking out. And you could use cauldrons for really big pipes. There's lots of different combinations. Have a look at some of these and see what strikes your fancy or inspires you. There's also rooftop HVAC units that you can use, where you can use rails as fans and solar panels. So they could be useful too on the roofs. Something I also like to use is like these big heatsink fans coming out of the sides of my buildings. They can add quite a lot, kill quite a lot of dead space all at once. They also add a little bit of light through the magma cubes, or what I like to do is add some shroom lights to the back of the walls to add even more light. Or you could just have like a whole heatsink unit like this, just sticking out of the side of your wall. Now on to antennae, and there's no real wrong answers when it comes to antennae. You could either do something really nice and structured like this, or you could just go ham and mash a whole bunch of ones together and do whatever you like. They're mainly useful for decorating rooftops, although you could just add any of them coming out of the side of a building and it would work just as well. My favorite is the redstone torch and iron trapdoor combination here to make little satellite dishes. You can add them to any building anywhere and they'll look great. So yeah, just play around with them and see what you can come up with. And now it's time to scale it up a notch. We're doing holograms, and these are some of the ones that I've used before. Now, there's many different ways that you can make your projectors. You can put them on a rooftop or a balcony, maybe, or maybe even have this jutting out of a wall. They're completely up to you. All of these are completely up to you. But here we have like a tree, you know, because Cyberpunk, they don't really get to see trees a lot, so a hologram of one, probably a good idea. Same goes for the globe. You know, what Earth used to look like before Cyberpunk dystopia took over. And yeah, this is another projector that I made, jutting out of a wall. Very useful. Or you can just take it completely over the top and make it an entire feature of a building. Because why not? Right? So I have a massive projector here that was in my main base tower on Atlantia. And a giant face of me, right? Four-sided, looking in all directions, because why not? And now you don't have to do a face of me. I mean, you can if you want to, but just play around with it, you know? What I tend to do is I would build whatever it is that I want as a hologram out of concrete blocks or wool blocks, and then color by color just replace everything with panes or air or end rods, and boom, you got yourself a hologram. And then you just need to connect it up with some rays like this, you know, or like that, or like that. But yeah, it takes a little bit of practice to get these ones right, but once you do, it adds so much, because it not just covers up the wall, but it adds extra coming out of your building, right? So it's an add-on to the building, not just covering up dead space. So these things are fantastic. So if you guys are finding any of this useful, how about hitting that like button? You know, it's free. Yeah, thanks. Next up, we have landing pads and vehicles. Now, as usual, the vehicles are by Captain Jack. If you guys download the world, you will find this QR code here, and you can just go to Captain Jack's Planet Minecraft page. Link will also be in the description. So we got a puddle jumper here, and we have his Cyberpunk spaceship thing here, which I've modified in one of my episodes. And landing pads are great for decorating your rooftops. So you could have an empty one, you could have one with something parked on it, or you can have one that's coming in for landing or taking off, however you want to do it. You could also, if you use those doors and you make them big enough, you could also use these in walls. So having a door like that as like a landing bay opening, and then having one of these flying in or out, could also be very useful for the sides of buildings. Then last but not least is neon signage, because the Cyberpunk city just isn't the same without it, right? So here are a few designs that I've used in the past. This one is actually the enchanting language, if you would believe it. And it's just a combination of panes and full glass blocks with some end rods behind it. But adding this to the side of a building, you know, either sticking out away from the wall or flat against the wall, this can add quite a lot. Here's another example where you can do double-sided, just with end rods, just floating around, not actually connected to the wall, because holograms, you know, why not? You could also attach it to the wall and have it one-sided. You could, you know, really go overboard with it being a full-on sign. However you want to do. I'm just trying to show you guys that there are no wrong answers here. You can do whatever you want. These are just some inspiration for you to use, right? Then we have this big DPC sign from my main base on Atlantia, and just to illustrate how using glass and concrete and then black with the end rods can really make a very, very cool looking effect, right? There's also things that you can do like this one, where you just have light sources, slabs and stairs, and panes in the middle, and some trapdoors around the side. These sorts of signs can be very cool to use too, more for like shops and stuff like that, rather than like big billboardy kind of things. Here's another one where I'm using glass panes and concrete and end rods in a different combination. And then finally, there's that one, which I just want to make sure that you guys are reminded. But one of my favorite ones, actually, is this one down here, which is a combination of a few different things, right? So you got the antenna, you have hologram, and then you have neon signage, right? So this one's kind of a hologram that's like swirling around. The tower, which is projecting it in all directions, and you can see I'm using the end rod sideways this time to simulate the movement of it, you know, turning, and it just says police dep because I didn't make it big enough to say police department. I would probably, if I did this again, do it big enough so I could say police twice or something like that, but yeah, you guys get the picture, right? Alright, so let's just take one last flyby of everything and see what it looks like with shaders, because it is just glorious in shaders. Now, I know not everyone plays with it, but I hope that you find this to still be very useful for you, even if you don't play with shaders, because there's a lot of detail to be had here, and I hope you guys found some value in all of this. So that's gonna do it from me for today, folks. Check out my other Cyberpunk tutorials and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and see ya.